Superman is misunderstood. And why is it that the first superhero, the one that set the standard, has also been debated, changed time after time? And let's face it, Superman is both one of the most loved and hated characters in comic book history. But why? I've been a die-hard Superman fan for nearly 40 years, and I've noticed a few things that have to be present to represent the true Superman, the one that started almost a century ago. And sadly, these points are the same reason why Superman has such a divided fan base. The first thing you must have if you want to write a good Superman story is power. I mean, he has to be super, but many people just kind of stop right there. See, that's the problem. The power becomes the focus. It's why I never cared for Superman comics like Superman Unchained, and why the Snyderverse started to fall flat for Superman fans, because when power is your number one focus, the enemy's number one focus must also be power. What happens with this mindset is that you take the world's most powerful being and you keep one-upping him, so to speak, to keep him relevant. Sometimes the stories from this mindset are lackluster, like Superman Unchained, and sometimes the stories are epic, like Dan Jurgens' Death of Superman. We'll focus more on his unbalanced challenges in a minute, but when stories like The Death of Superman are written, there's another focus that isn't lost. One that keeps things more interesting than whether or not Superman is the most powerful being. And that point is compassion. Superman, from the very beginning, has been the friend or savior of the helpless and oppressed, as it's written in the early Action Comics. Even though he seemed a little tougher in the Golden Age, in the early Golden Age that is, he still had a heart of gold. He didn't use his power for wealth or fame. He put on a disguise that separated him from the woman he cared for so that he could continue investigating the most needy individuals as Clark Kent. And when Clark figured it out, Superman came in with all his power and glory, but not to domineer over the needy, to serve them and to save them. This aspect, for many people, it's not needed. They just want the power. And others will sacrifice the power so that they can focus on compassion. Neither of these are correct, okay? Both character traits must be present to the fullest extent for the character to work. Which brings me to another extremely divisive point, which is needed, and that is Superman's secret identity. From the bumbling oaf of Christopher Reeve to the emotionless Superman in glasses of Henry Cavill, Clark Kent has been tried many different ways. But oftentimes, this secret persona only causes more division among fans. Who was Clark Kent in the Golden Age? In 1939, Jerry Siegel, the original creator, wrote a short story that described his Clark Kent better than any description I've ever heard. In the story, which has no pictures, Superman flees in an elevator, and men with guns, they surrounded, the escape of the elevator, and realize that they've trapped Superman, and start frantically pushing the button to get the elevator back and to open the doors. Here, I'll just read you what it says straight from the source of what happens when the trapped Superman's elevator doors open, which is this. A hesitant, alarmed voice broke the electric silence. My word, put those guns away! Out of the elevator stepped a slim, nervous figure. Meek eyes blinked fearfully behind thick-rimmed glasses. No Superman. This is rather a very frightened young man. From somewhere behind him, the dumbfounded detective sergeant heard a smothering titter. His face reddened. "Where's Superman?" he shouted at the mouse-like young man who stood before him. "What in all that's holy are you doing in that elevator?" "I was just, descending to the lobby when something apparently went wrong with the mechanism. I'll admit I was terrified for a few moments, but—" "Answer me!" thundered Blake. "Did you see a man in a strange uniform in that elevator?" "No one at all. That is, except myself. I'm afraid there must be some mistake, Sergeant. I'm Clark Kent, reporter on the Daily Star." Okay, so this early Golden Age Clark from the original creator, that doesn't work at the Daily Planet, details the necessity and importance of the secret identity of Clark Kent. He was not just some Superman in glasses like George Reeves, Superman the Animated Series, Henry Cavill, or even Dean Cain to an extent. He was a radically different character. He slumped to be shorter, wore loose-fitting clothes to look skinny, and spoke often with a high-pitched and nervous voice. That was the original intention behind Clark, the mild-mannered reporter, which allows for great moments like this. But more importantly, allows Kal-El to get into places that Superman himself could never get into when investigating. Or, in this case, get out of places where Superman never could get out of. Because, honestly, if Superman used his power to rule, he could get out of any situation with no issue, like Homelander or something. Which brings me to my next point. Superman's challenges. Superman shouldn't have to always be fighting something that's stronger than him to create a challenge. That's kinda lazy. In the Golden Age, his fight scenes were often just Superman busting in to save the day after Clark had investigated and figured out where to look. We knew that Superman could save the day. That wasn't the issue. It was whether or not Clark could figure out where he was supposed to be in time. Maybe before the heist was pulled off, or before the evil madman sets off his death ray or kills Lois, whatever the case was, in the Golden Age, Clark Kent's character was more than just a way for Superman to have a quote-unquote normal life. In fact, that wasn't it at all. It was part of the job as a hero, or as the Golden Age puts it, part of his duty as a friend to the oppressed, a way for him to save people through his compassion. His challenges weren't focused on something that he couldn't handle in every issue either. He would get help from time to time, but it wasn't how he solved things like in Superman 2025, where he basically there isn't one battle he wins on his own. The Golden Age, Superman could take care of anything. He just needed to know where to go and what to do. He basically confirmed through writing news stories who the villain was, then had the evidence he needed to find them and bust them. His challenges were focused more on the who, what, where, when, and why, not the how. That part was obvious after Clark figured it all out, or Lois, of course. And since we're on the topic of Lois, her story is very important as well. Lois Lane was often picked on as the damsel in distress, and though she was that, she was also the resource Clark used to find out where Superman could help. From the beginning in 1938, she was a great reporter. She was sent on assignment and given tough jobs because she was a go-getter. This allowed Clark to team up with her, and since she was so good at her job, it often led him to the exact place that Superman needed to be. This is why she was the damsel in distress. The same reason good fighters often have black eyes and busted lips. They fight a lot. She was in trouble all the time because she was so good at getting to the bottom of stories. This whole time, you've been watching the majestic flying of a pretend Superman over a beautiful cityscape. To answer your question, yes, this is playable, and no, it's not a real game. You can find that in the description. But the calm that you feel when you see him soaring over skyscrapers or flying through the streets of the supposed metropolis, that feeling of calm, relaxation, should be present at the end of every Superman tale, after Superman obviously saves the day. Which, for the most part, just about every Superman movie has done a good job of, whether it be Henry Cavill's smile at the end of Man of Steel, David Cornsweet soaking in the sun while watching home movies, or Chris Reeve or Brandon Routh grinning at the camera after saving the world. You need to feel, after all the challenges, all the investigating and hardships, that there is nothing this guy can't do, and that the hope will always be there, waiting for you after every trial, because there's nothing the Man of Steel can't handle.